This is Northern Light for Monday, October 16th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
The food hub that supports many farmers in the Adirondacks is going through a big transition.
Small scale and medium scale farmers are always working on an extremely thin margin of profit. And when something is thrown off a little bit, it can have really deep repercussions.
The Essex Food Hub wants to keep up the work of the hub on the Hill. We'll have more from Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman coming up.
In its June ruling outlawing affirmative action in college admissions, the U.S. Supreme Court exempted the nation's military academies. A new lawsuit seeks to change that. Also, a new exhibit at the library in Saranac Lake explores fiber arts, from wool hats and sweaters to hook rugs. Some of the yarn has been dyed using local mushrooms.
Everything you see here has been made mostly by women in Saranac Lake, the Adirondackers. And then we have a few pieces from different places like Tupper Lake, Jay, Paul Smith as well.
We'll have a preview and much more coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by St. Lawrence Health, committed to keeping the community healthy and safe by providing vaccines for patients to strengthen their defenses. stlawrencehealthsystem.org. And by Apothecary Chocolates, making gourmet chocolates by hand from all natural herbs, botanicals, and tree syrups. apothecarychocolates.com.
Good morning. You're listening to Northern Light here on NCPR, North Country Public Radio. It's 8:02. I'm Mitch Tyke. So glad to have you listening this morning. And I'm just taking a moment to seize the microphone before Todd and Monica take you through the morning to remind you that we are in the midst of our fall fundraiser. And it's incredibly important for you to take just a moment now and support NCPR with your contribution at ncpr.org/give or 877-388-6277. Your contributions have a direct impact on our ability to bring you Northern Light and the news from around our community each and every weekday morning. And when you take that moment now to go to ncpr.org/give or 877-388-6277, you are entered to win. Are you the kind of person who has to drink your coffee, slowly sip that coffee as you listen to Northern Light in the morning? Well, we have an amazing opportunity for you when you contribute during Northern Light. You are entered to win the set of NCPR diner mugs from our history. We have some lovely mugs. They're these cool diner mugs. They're the big, thick ceramic ones that won't knock over when you bump into it with your head as you nod off on a Monday morning. You're entered to win that set of 4 diner mugs of various colors, and you are supporting NCPR. 877-388-6277 or ncpr.org/give. Now here's Todd and Monica.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. Lawmakers are calling on Governor Kathy Hochul to sign legislation that ensures ambulance providers get paid for their services. It would allow emergency services to bill insurance directly for out-of-network coverage rather than billing patients and waiting for them to pay. Assemblymember Bill Magnarelli says smaller suburban and rural providers are at risk of going out of business, leaving residents vulnerable if they face a medical emergency.
Many ambulance service providers are struggling, faced with sharply rising costs associated with personnel, healthcare benefits, and collection fees associated with the out-of-network health insurance carriers.
Magnarelli says ambulance providers are mandated by law to respond, evaluate, treat, and transport patients regardless of insurance. Mike Adario of AMR Northeast, an emergency response company based in Western New York, says the vast majority of ambulance service providers are provided at no cost to taxpayers.
We exist solely on the fee-for-service that we're able to collect for the services that we provide. We respond to several million calls each year across the state. Reimbursement has certainly hindered our ability to continue operating as ambulance services. It's put tremendous amount of pressure on us, especially in this post-COVID environment.
Dario says there are 13% fewer EMS responders than there were 10 years ago, and they're handling far more emergency calls.
A proposed green hydrogen facility in Messina is moving forward. The parent company is Air Products, which operates green hydrogen facilities worldwide. At a recent public hearing, Air Products told town officials they've started work on the building site, which is on Pontoon Bridge Road in Messina. Spokesperson Trip Oliver says construction of the facility will employ dozens and then hundreds of people over the next 3 years. He said once it opens, the facility will employ at least 90 people full-time. The $500 million facility will cover over 80 acres and is expected to open in 2026. It'll produce liquid hydrogen fuel for large transport vehicles. The process will require a lot of electricity and water. The New York Power Authority has made a deal to supply the facility with cheap electricity. The Messina Water Department will supply about 1 million gallons of water to the facility per day.
The next battle over affirmative action in higher education will take place at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in the Hudson Valley. The same group that successfully challenged race-conscious admissions at Harvard and the University of North Carolina now hopes to do the same at the academies that train the nation's future military leaders. Desiree Diorio reports for the American Homefront Project.
Students for Fair Admissions is the activist group at the center of this summer's landmark Supreme Court case that struck down affirmative action in college admissions. Edward Bloom founded the group on the premise that a student's merit, not their race, should be paramount. It's an argument that he's now taking to West Point.
There is no merit in judging people by their skin color. There is merit in judging officers and enlisted men by their competence, their loyalty, and their service. Skin color has no place in the military or the rest of American public life.
The Supreme Court's decision doesn't apply to the nation's military academies, where cadets and midshipmen are groomed for leadership, and admission is famously difficult. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in a footnote that the military academies might have distinct interests for considering race that civilian colleges do not. But Bloom says that footnote doesn't preclude him from challenging the policy.
It was really a statement of agnosticism. The unique nature of the service academy was not before the court, and therefore the court wasn't going to address it.
The footnote opened the door for Students for Fair Admissions to sue the Military Academy at West Point, alleging that its focus on race when evaluating a candidate violates the equal protection principles in the Constitution. The case breathes new life into the long-standing debate over the value of diversity in the military's officer corps and whether race should be considered when the military selects its leaders. Ebony Wilson is the dean of the University of Connecticut School of Law. She says proponents of affirmative action, including at the Defense Department, have long held that diverse leaders are essential in an increasingly diverse population.
When you think about the importance of business leaders, everyone in the workforce, our judicial system, our legal system, our military, having people from diverse backgrounds and diverse identities contribute to the positivity of those institutions and of society. Working together with people from diverse backgrounds makes for better decision-making, makes for positive educational outcomes, makes for cross-cultural understanding.
Nelson says it's not clear if the case against West Point will make it to the Supreme Court. If it does, the court will have to decide if the military does in fact have a distinct and compelling interest to consider race when evaluating applicants to the military academies.
What exactly we mean as a distinct interest, I think is going to be very difficult for the court to define. And again, when you specifically ask to address this issue, I do not think that they will end up finding that the consideration of race is considered to be constitutional in this context.
A spokesperson for West Point declined to comment on the lawsuit. The academy has made efforts in recent years to increase the diversity of the student body, and earlier this year removed commemorations of Robert E. Lee and other Confederate relics. I'm Desiree Diorio in New York.
This story was produced by the American Homefront Project, a public media collaboration that reports on American military life and veterans.
After 10 years, a lawsuit about snowmobile trails, the Adirondack Park, and the state constitution has been resolved, according to the Adirondack Daily Enterprise. A New York Supreme Court judge ruled that the construction of Class 2 snowmobile trails, which are 9 to 12 feet wide, violates the Forever Wild clause of the New York State Constitution. The lawsuit was brought against the APA by Protect the Adirondacks, a nonprofit environmental group, after the DEC started construction on Class 2 trails in Racket Lake. Those wider trails required extensive tree cutting. The state eventually sided with the nonprofit. It ordered the APA and DEC to pay the group about $30,000. Following the ruling, the DEC amended its tree cutting policy, but the snowmobile trails themselves are already built and have remained open. Protect the Adirondacks told the Adirondack Daily Enterprise that if the trails are used this winter, they'll pursue further legal action.
Also this winter, there's one utility bill that will actually be cheaper than in years past. National Grid is forecasting that the cost of residential natural gas will be lower in the coming months. They say that's because domestic production of natural gas has increased and there's less demand for natural gas in international markets. They say consumers can expect natural gas bills that are about 20% cheaper this winter. WWNY-TV reports that will come out to around $30 in savings per month, as calculated by National Grid.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:11. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, a food hub in transition and when the library in Saranac Lake becomes a fibrary. All of that and more is coming up right here on Northern Light in just a few minutes, where we are celebrating North Country Public Radio and the community that we live in and the partnership that goes with them. We are in the midst of our fall fundraiser, and here to tell us more is station manager Mitch Tyke. Hey, Mike. Oh, my word.
Well, the mic is on, so.
Exactly.
Hey, Monica. It's great to be here this morning, and always great to be a part of Northern Lights and a part of your morning. It's our morning, and we do this together. You are the power behind Northern Light and everything you hear on NCPR. NCPR.org/give, 877-388-6277. Play an active role in our fall fundraiser and help us reach our overall goal of $350,000. We have some folks to thank. We want to thank Shirley Tedford in Plattsburgh and Frank and Colleen Murtaugh in Pottersville. All of them say that NCPR is their go-to station for their daily morning news and is an essential part of their daily lives. So great to hear from both Plattsburgh and Pottersville this morning. We'd love to hear from Potsdam, and somebody help me with another place that starts with P.
Piercefield?
Plattsburgh.
We just heard from Plattsburgh. Pulaski. How about
there we go.
Piercefield? Yes, Piercefield. It doesn't have to start with P. It could start with any letter. We just want to hear from you now. 877-388-6277, ncpr.org/give. I'll be back in a few minutes and let you know about some of the ways we have of saying thank you, but I'll just close by saying this. Thank you.
Music by Joe Phillips out of Warrensburg, one of the many regional musicians that we feature on our website as part of the Underscore Project. Check that out. While you're making a gift, that's at ncpr.org/underscore. And don't forget, right on the front page, click on Give Now. Make your gift. Support regional news, regional musicians, regional artists. ncpr.org/give or 877-388-6277. Northern Light is supported by Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake, hosting 2 taxidermy workshops, October 28th and 29th. Event details at the adkx.org. And by the Village Mercantile in Saranac Lake, established in 2011 with the mission of community-fueled solutions with essentials for home, camp, and gift-giving. VillageMerc.com, anything but general.
The local food movement in the Adirondacks is experiencing some growing pains. At least one high-profile farm has gone out of business. Others are struggling with everything from basic cash flow to climate change. The food hub that supports many of them is also going through a big transition. The founders of the Hub on the Hill have decided to sunset their organization. A new charitable nonprofit wants to take over. Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman has the details.
Lindsay Willamane shows me the inside of a wholesale cooler.
So this is a 16 by 20 cooler that we raised funds for last spring.
There's all sorts of food stacked in there, like greens and pails of yogurt for area schools.
I never thought that I was going to be so enthralled. Like cold storage. I can't tell you the level of enthusiasm. Yeah.
Willamane is the executive director of the Essex Food Hub, the organization trying to take over for another food hub called the Hub on the Hill. Seated at a picnic table outside the big warehouse building that houses both, Willamane explains that food hubs link local farmers and producers with consumers.
What we do is we move food. We're connectors. We try to get local farm food and value-added products into as many mouths as we can.
That's a difficult task. The Hub on the Hill was created back in 2015 to try to take it on for a growing small farm movement in Essex County. It offered delivery routes, a commercial kitchen, storage, and a market where local farms could sell their goods. It also served as an incubator space for small businesses and worked with local organizations during the pandemic to get food to people in need. Jory Weekin is one of the Hub's co-founders. She says trying to make it all work was joyful and fun.
It was new, and you could feel and see and sense the appreciation of what was happening.
But there were also plenty of challenges. Weekin says there was constant pressure to make things work financially. According to the Essex Food Hub's website, the Hub on the Hill's operations lost almost $400,000 over 7 years. Weekin says she was caught between wanting to grow but also focus the Hub's work.
It outgrew sort of a project phase, and now we were really providing important services in the community.
The Essex Food Hub is trying to preserve and expand that work. Willamane says the organization has been working to streamline and focus the Hub on the Hill's operations. It's homed in on being a distributor for local producers, running delivery routes up and down the state, and trying to address food access and affordability gaps.
I think now the challenge for us is to, build an organization that can be nimble, but that also kind of has a solid foundation and structure and plan for the future that's kind of mirroring the maturity of the producers.
The Food Hub's transition is coming at a tough time for local farmers. Kristen Kimball is a co-owner of the Essex Farm, one of the pioneers in Essex County's local food revival. Kimball says there have been big changes for local agriculture in the wake of the pandemic. Things like a shift in land ownership, rising costs, and a softening market for direct marketed foods.
Small scale and medium scale farmers are always working on an extremely thin margin of profit. And when something is thrown off a little bit, it can have really deep repercussions for those small businesses.
Many farms see partnering with a local food hub as a way to stretch those thin margins. Sarah Kingsack co-owns KZ Farm, an Angus beef farm in Westport. She says a lot of local customers have time and financial constraints, so it doesn't make sense for them to travel all the way to her farm whenever they need beef, in addition to other farms for other products. She says it makes more sense for people to get what they need all in one place, like the Food Hub's market.
There's a reason why grocery stores took off. And so for me, as a small farm, it just makes sense to be more of a patch in a quilt of farmers and food producers in this area. And the hub is really what's keeping that quilt together.
And the Food Hub doesn't just support farmers. Susie Smith owns DAC Bar, an energy bar company that got its start renting by the hour in the Hub on the Hill's kitchen. Smith now rents part of the building as her production facility.
And I can employ people and grow my business and share the resources that allow me to be successful. If I had to go lease an entire building on my own, I don't think that my business would have survived. Having to pay utilities and, all the infrastructure expenses would have been very difficult as a small growing business.
The Essex Food Hub had set goals of purchasing the Hub on the Hill's assets by the end of August and the building itself by the end of the year. They're about a third of the way towards their $1.2 million fundraising goal. And they have an alternative plan. Willamane says there's a building for sale that's closer to highways, which would be good for deliveries and market sales. It's also a quarter the asking price of the current space and much smaller.
So we would still have to do some build out and all of that, but what we would wind up with is a smaller space that could be more efficiently heated, cooled, and offer more efficient operations because it would be built out to suit our operations specifically.
The gap between small farms and consumers has been a vexing one for the local food movement since its inception. It's almost impossible to recreate the fleets of delivery trucks, supermarkets, and production facilities of traditional agriculture. But Willamane says the Hub is doing important work to fill that gap, and Hub on the Hill co-founder Jory Weekin had the community's support and love behind her to bring it as far as she did.
And it feels like if we cannot emerge in the wake of the old Hub, it's a catastrophic loss, not just, in the quantitative sense, but, it's like a heart loss.
Weekin herself says she hopes the Hub can continue, even if it might look different. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio, Essex.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's about 20 after 8. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski, joined in the studio with station manager Mitch Tyke to tell us more about our fall fundraiser.
Absolutely, Monica. And stories about food hubs, stories about libraries in the region, stories about our community. This is the only place where you get that kind of breadth and depth of coverage. NCPR. Take just a moment now. Call 877-388-6277. Don't wait till later. Just take a moment now. 877-388-6277 or go to ncpr.org/give. When you contribute at any level, you can take home the NCPR car magnet or the key light flashlight or the handy glove box size ice scraper, or at just $10 a month. How about the always NCPR Retro Ringer t-shirt or one of our ball caps, the cranberry ball cap or the Northward Snapback Trucker cap in charcoal and blue. So many ways of saying thank you. We've got lots of people and lots of places to thank this morning. We'll do that in a few minutes, but it's important that we get back to Northern Light. Take just a moment now, 877-388-6277 or ncpr.org/give.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up in just a minute, an art exhibit that features the work of the Knitterondackers. That's in just a minute. Then stick around after the show for Bird Note coming up at 8:42. First, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
We've got clouds, cooler temperatures around the region, some scattered showers. When I drove in this morning, a very heavy fog that's felt like light rain. Highs today ranging from the upper 40s into the mid to upper 50s. And light winds out of the north-northwest. So some scattered rain in the forecast today. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs low to mid-50s, and then partly cloudy Wednesday and Thursday, highs near 60. Some scattered rain possible again on Friday. Right now, cloudy and 50 degrees in Canton.
A new exhibit at the library in Saranac Lake explores fiber arts from wool hats and sweaters to hooked rugs, quilts, and stuffed bears. The show explores a wide variety of fiber creations by artists from around the Adirondacks.
I stopped by the Saranac Lake Free Library last Friday to talk with art exhibits coordinator Emmanuelle Gagliotti, who organized the fiber arts exhibit. It's on display through Thanksgiving. Among the books and shelves on the main level of the library, you'll find spaces that have been yarn-bombed with bright, colorful yarn creations made by the local knitting group known as the Knitterondackers. Then step down into the lower level and the Cantwell room, and you'll see dozens of fiber creations, tapestries, quilts, stuffed critters, framed art, and lots of winter wool accoutrements.
Okay, my name is Emmanuelle Galeotti, also known as Emma. We're here in the Cantwell room at the Saranac Lake Library. And the show you're seeing is called Fibrary, for fiber arts at the library. Fibrary, it's a term that was coined by my colleague Jenny Curtis. Jenny also does our promotion. And this show is all about local-made art. So fiber art, but everything you see here has been made locally, mostly by women in Saranac Lake. The Knitterondackers did the knitted items, and then we have a few pieces from different places like Tupper Lake, Jay, Keene, I believe. So it's all locally handmade. Paul Smith as well, right? That's another one. And the idea was to show the talent that we have here locally. Because people do think in the winter at home, it's cold outside, but it's warm inside.
Yeah.
And everything you see here is kind of warm, right, in itself. We have quilt, sweaters, little blankie, hooked piece. So it's all about fiber arts and some framed art as well, mostly made of little leftover piece of fabric that are at home and beautifully put together.
Where is your hat? You were showing me your hat a moment ago. You have this amazing knit hat.
So this hat was made by Susan Hopkins. Susan is our local mushroom expert, and she's also a great knitter and a knitterondacker. The hat you see, all those different colors, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different colors, all made by mushroom dyes. So Suzanne makes the dyes herself and dye the wool and then knit it. And so, as you can see, she's a very talented knitter. Because I know the Knitterondackers and I've been observing our community for a long time, I really, really wanted to show what's made.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and they deserve some tribute.
I love the fact that many of the pieces tie to nature or a season or the Adirondacks, the landscape. Yeah.
It's really Adirondacky, that's true. From the sweaters, which there is one, for example, here. The design was created by Sherry Firo, and that's a biathlon athlete because her family is involved in that sport. So this is a way to make it perdure in the family for generations. And there's such a variety of things. There is even this octopus here, right?
In the middle of the room, right.
In the middle of the room, suspended. That was another creation by Michelle Glennon. So another wool and water project. So the show, this show is going to last until November 25, so that gives people some time to come see it. It's a community room, so sometimes there is a group here doing something. It doesn't matter. You're welcome to come in and look around. I think it deserves to be seen, right?
Yeah, beautiful. Are you a knitter? Are you a fiber artist?
Not really. I would fix something, I would create something I need, but I don't have so much time to do that. So I enjoy what others do. And sometime me too, I will be retired and I will be a knitterondacker.
That's excellent. Do you have a favorite piece?
Favorite piece? Well, I have to say it's a knitted knocker.
So you do have something on display here that is very poignant and has a extra special meaning, right?
It's extra special. It feels good to touch. It's a knitted knocker. Those are made for women who are going through mastectomy. They're locally made by Sarah Sheldon, so anybody that needs a breast like this could contact her. or ask. We have our number here. It's very touching. They're made in different colors to match your skin, your weight, your size. Yes, for me, this is a perfect example of community fabric. Right, women helping other women. It's just made to help another woman. So that piece, and probably the bear, the memory bears.